Okay, welcome everyone at home. Welcome everyone here. It's so nice to be with you this evening. And I'm trying to get the video right here. There we go. They're still gonna, people at home are just still gonna see the side of my head, but that's okay. It might be better than just a picture of my frozen smile and the sound. It's more live, right? So, make sure my phone is on. Okay, so any questions from the last week or last couple of weeks? We've been talking about this way in which we can have responses or reactions to things that are from a place below conscious awareness. And especially if the intensity doesn't seem to match the circumstances, or we recognize, oh, the same kind of situation, similar situation, evokes really intense feelings over and over again, that it could have a place in our past and in our bodies without us being consciously aware of it. And how a meditation practice helps us connect to this part of the brain that helps regulate that response, helps us be able to maintain presence, maintain awareness when that intensity comes up. And sometimes that can be a difficult thing for us to grasp, that, wow, so, it really feels like it's about this thing, but in fact, there could be threads of something very old there, something very intense, or that is very much sort of in conflict with my hidden beliefs about what I need to do to be okay, or how life needs to be in order for things to be okay. It can be really disconcerting when that stuff pops up. And sometimes our loved ones might say, hey, this is happening again. And we might not be really open to hearing it, because in the moments, before we have the awareness, it could feel really personal. It feels like this is really real, this is really happening right now. And the sensation is real, but the connection, that's the thing that we want to cultivate this part of the smart part of our brain for, so that we can sort out what's actually a response from another time, what's actually the intensity doesn't quite match what's happening here. I'm getting way more revved up than it seems like other people do when this kind of thing arises, and being curious, what's that about? When we can maintain curiosity, maintain that non-judgmental stance, that's what we're cultivating with a meditative practice. And we can cultivate that even off the cushion. We can mindfully do dishes. We can mindfully drive, right? Feeling what our body's doing, noticing what thoughts, noticing all of the scenery, all the things that we ordinarily would tune out. We can pay attention and notice and see what it's like to be entirely present in that moment, right? Instead of multitasking, right? Instead of dishes or going for a walk or driving, are times when I can work on some other problem in my head, right? Because I don't need to pay attention to driving. What's the point of that? I saw some statistic the other day. It was just driving down the highway, one of those digital billboards, and it said that highway fatalities are up 16% from previous year. And some of that's, I'm guessing, likely cell phone stuff, but also just we are incredibly distracted, bombarded by information. And being able to prioritize is another function that we cultivate when we do meditative practices. We're cultivating that prefrontal cortex ability to say, no, this is important right now, and I'm going to focus on this. right? That will be there, but I'm going to stay with this. Another cool thing, I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, I've definitely noticed that in my practice, there is an incredibly different feeling and ability to switch tasks. Interruptions used to really irritate me. And I think in part because it was very difficult for me to get back into the thing that I was working on prior to the interruption. And I noticed pretty early on in my practice that, wow, it's like somebody can come and want something, and I just stop what I'm doing, I address the interruption, and then I go back to what I was doing. There's no, why do they have to do that, or that was stupid, or that wasn't as important as what I'm doing. It was just this flow of, I'm working, something else draws my attention, I attend to it, takes care of it, come back to what I was doing without a lot of thought about it or a lot of effort, a lot of struggling. And so some people might call that increased productivity. That's something we can all get on board for, right? We're all happy when we get more done. But there's something about being able to be in the flow and just switch gears and be flexible that we're cultivating with all these prefrontal cortex functions. Okay, so tons of benefits, just tons of benefit from being able to do a little bit of practice, focusing. I was reminded, and I post this really good talk by John Kabat-Zinn. He did it at the end of a conference the other day, and I think it was therapists or trauma therapists or something. And he was talking about how, he's like, I didn't invent mindfulness. I mean, he's credited with introducing the mind-body concept, introducing meditation into medicine. He says the definition persists, and this is the one that he still uses, which is mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose to the present moment with curiosity and non-judgmentalness. Okay? You can't really do both at the same time. You can't really be curious and be judgmental. They're sort of like opposing functions. Curiosity is like, oh, what's here? And judgment is sort of like, here's what I see here, right? They kind of counteract each other. So you're paying attention on purpose to the present moment with non-judgment. And the non-judgment, I think, is a really important piece. And there can even be a sterility or a judgmental way of applying non-judgment, right? We can judge ourselves for seeing judgment, right? Oh, there I go again, judging myself, right? So we get, right? So we get rigid, we contract against the judgment. But the idea of our practice is that nothing is left out. Whatever is arising, we can embrace with non-judgment, even if that's judgment, right? And I mean, the chain can get pretty long. So if I notice judgment arising and I go, oh, there it is, and then I contract and I'm like, but I don't want to be non-judgmental about the judgment, and then I can notice that resistance, right? So I can keep backing up a little bit more and noticing, oh, there's resistance, and then there's resistance to resistance, and then resistance to. There's always space for everything. And that's what I hope you guys get out of the guided meditations. I don't know if that always comes across, but every single part of the meditation, every time we do it, is about putting ourselves in this on purpose, noticing, non-judgmentally place, and practicing this new way of relating to our experience, which is it's all okay. No matter what I'm experiencing, comfortable, uncomfortable, neutral, boring, frustrating, whatever it is, it's okay. Exactly as I experience it, it's okay. So both things are allowed. It's allowed to be, not pleasant, and I'm allowed to feel like it's not pleasant. And I have the space of awareness is big enough to hold all those things. Right? The stuff that's happening, my perceptual, right, my relative experience of it in the moment, because I might not experience it the same way in another day, right? We have good days, bad days, right? And then the thing that notices both what's happening and how we're responding to it can hold it all and go, okay, this is just what's happening. It's all stuff that's happening right now, right? And whatever's happening right now is just okay. And something, as I say that, notice if anything comes up and kind of objects to that, and I want to offer the question, how could it not be okay? Because you can't do anything about it. That's what is, right? What's happening in that moment and the way you're receiving it, right? How you internally, how it's hitting you. It's all completely beyond your control. What you do with it after that, that's in your control. But if what's happening and how it's hitting us turn into, right, I would just chew my own leg off to get away from it because that's how much it sucks, right? Or that's what I've decided, I think. I don't even want to look at it because that's what I think it's going to be, right? That's not in control. That's not responding. That's reacting, right? And then if instead of trying to get away from it, if I just like, it sucks and I dive right in and be as miserable as I can possibly be, that's also not being in control, right? Flooding ourselves, immersing ourselves. Because we do that. Americans are famous for torturing themselves, pushing themselves past their limits, right? Mm-hmm. Go for the worst part. Do the worst part first. I think there's even productivity advice that says that kind of thing. Right? Get the worst one off your plate. I had a client tell me there's a phrase for that philosophy. It's eat the frog. Right? Just eat the frog. Right? But you get the felt sense of it, right? The horrible, icky thing. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more. My plan tonight was to talk about capacity, unless you guys have any questions or responses about just so far what we've talked about, this thing called implicit memory, which is responses to life that happen without our participation, right? Feelings and reactions and thoughts and stuff that just sort of pops up out of nowhere. And it lives in the body, so it doesn't require our conscious retrieval or deciding to store it. It's just there. And funny enough, part of the process for healing that stuff, because we don't actually have to live with those cycles of suffering forever. And the healing of those things involves in large part being able to stay with non-judgmental awareness and witness them. Yeah. And there are particular ways and little tricks for how you do that. And somatic experiencing is one of the things that I do with clients to help move that through. And there are a couple of other modalities out there that are about working with implicit memory and working with the body. There was one off the top of my head. The guy's name and the name of the therapy are escaping me. I'll think of it though, I'm sure, before the end today. So we're going to do a grounding exercise, and then I want to talk a little bit more about this thing that we do, this pushing past or forcing ourselves beyond our capacity. Okay? All right. So just real simple, we're just going to feel into our bodies for a little bit and just take a quick survey as you feel how you make contact with the chair. Survey how present you feel right now. Just see what percentage pops in just at the very thought of how much of me is here, feels like it's really here. And then let that number go and start to notice your feet and the solidness of the ground beneath your feet. Old reliable ground that we take for granted. And as you get a sense of how solid and supportive that ground is beneath your feet, see if you can start to let the ground have the weight of your legs and feet, giving over the chore of holding up your legs and feet to the ground and noticing what that feels like. And if there's any part of that exercise that feels too uncomfortable or scary, you can ask, what percent of the weight of my legs and feet can I allow the ground to support? You don't have to give it all, you can give some. And then just notice what that's like. And as you continue to notice the way the ground supports and takes without complaint the weight of your legs and feet, and the chair supports you, begin to notice the interior of your legs for any sensations that might be there. So some things that you can check for if you like: coolness or warmth, tingling, a sense of shivering or shaking, or a sense of vibration in any direction or any type of vibration. And you're just noticing those sensations as you continue to give the weight of your legs to the ground. And as you continue to notice the interior space of your legs, you could check for an overall sensation of flow or fluidity, whether that's water or some other fluid, whatever feels like the right image to you. Or of space. Noticing if it feels like air or spaciousness inside the interior of your legs as you continue to give the weight of your legs to the ground. And perhaps you might still also notice some sort of vibrational quality as well. It might be all of those things, or none of them, or one or two. And you're just noticing what's there. Each moment, it might shift while you're noticing. And then you just notice that also. And then to end, you're just going to come back to noticing the sensation of giving the weight of your legs to the ground and feeling the solidness of the chair and the solidness of that ground beneath your feet. And take another little survey. What percent present do I feel? There's no wrong answer. Whatever number pops in first usually is the best one. And you're just noticing. It's just information. And then you can let your awareness come back into the room. Any comments about that exercise? Like or dislike or weird or... Sometimes people will report that the idea of just letting the ground totally have their legs, right? Just giving that over to the ground feels scary. Right? And that makes perfect sense to me. That's like a control thing, right? I'm not handing over responsibility for my legs to the ground. I'm keeping it all locked down, under control. Right? It's mine.
I guess when we do that, I don't know what that is to put all my weight. Conscious of there. I mean, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to relax, but I still know it's like the chair holding me up. Okay. I never get that sensation. Putting the weight there.
Well, if you think about it, if you were just sitting in the chair and the ground wasn't beneath your feet, like if your legs were hanging, that would be a completely different sensation, right? Than having this here.
I think in my head I have this idea that I'll feel this big weight transfer.
Well, it's a little more subtle than that, and it depends on how relaxed you are already, right? So there's a noticing, and it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Maybe I'm just expecting too much.
Right. Our expectation can interfere with perceiving what's actually happening. Yeah. And, until we really start to pay attention to what's happening, the interior sensations in the body, we might not realize how much is going on there or how little contact or access we have to those parts. And there are very good reasons why we lose access to stuff below the neck. I mean, for one thing, societally, we promote that. We promote living from here up. And for another thing, our life experiences in lots of ways can disconnect us from our bodies. And it didn't make sense to me until, and it wouldn't have made sense to me until my training about trauma and the body, that we can have in a sense, we can have a program that's open and running that tells us, hey, a ball came from this direction and it hit me in the head and I was unable to defend myself. And so in my below conscious awareness, my body feels like I need to protect in this area. So I might have like a blind spot or a subconscious shield, right, in the direction of the impact, and a program that is saying, I need to keep protecting over here. And what I might not realize is that actually my access to sensation over here, because of the subconscious blocks out other stuff too. I don't know if you've heard of this thing before. We talk about it in SE about strange attraction. People that will have multiple impacts in the same side from the same direction, or a car accident, multiple impacts to the same exact angle of the car, right? Not uncommon at all, right? Or people that have once they have a major accident of some kind, a fall or something, and they keep having accidents, right? Because there's something, in our body that wants to protect or defend, but instead it's an incomplete program. It's tied up trying to defend against something that's not there anymore. And we can't actually respond to life right here, right now. And we wouldn't even know that was going on unless we did an exercise where we paid attention and said, hey, I can feel my body from here up, but I never can feel my legs. Or I feel like I can't feel this part of my body. Or I feel like there's something right here that's uncomfortable, right? We might not even know that every time we sit down, we're kind of leaning to the right or something, or sitting next to the door, or, right? It's below our conscious awareness. So this is a way of helping you guys just start to tiptoe into, in a really safe and non-judgmental way, this idea of sensation in the body, because we all have it. Nobody doesn't have it. It's just that access can be different depending on what your cumulative life experiences are. And even relational trauma, like body shaming or experiences that taught us, I'm not athletic, I'm not coordinated, I'm not I don't do sports or whatever, can disconnect us, right? If the body feels like not a safe place because people are picking on it or picking on me because of it, we can just totally disconnect from that and focus on stuff that's here up, if that's what we're good at. And we might not realize that there's this whole other part of us, this whole other intelligence we have that lives in our body that helps us navigate through life, that it would be good to have access to. Any questions about that?
Do you think that could be, well, for example, I like to just go out and backpack, but like really rugged stuff, and like everything aches, like this, not painful, like just these sore, like kind of dull aches. And I love it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I did something.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that sensation.
Yeah. So
Kinda.
if we're disconnected a little bit, right? If our access to sensation is low, it's very common. I know that I used to be a really extreme workout, like I'd work out till I was going to puke kind of stuff, right? Because it feels so good to feel your body if you don't ordinarily have access. Because if you don't have access to the interior, all that sensation, it's kind of like being dead. It's painful to not have that kind of access. So we'll do all kinds of things to extreme things to feel this, right? Make really sore muscles and feel really exhausted, or get ourselves really, right? Revved up. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. That's actually a really nice lead into the capacity discussion. So there's this thing that I experience, and all my clients experience, and every single human that I know experiences this running up against or butting up against their limits. And everybody's got their own flavor of this. The most common one I cite is sleep, because it's kind of a problem. You know, we've got lots of social pressure to skip sleep in order to be productive, and right, we pay it lip service, really. But if you're regularly getting 8 or 9 hours a night, it's not something that people ordinarily will brag about, because, right? Really? I mean, it's a shame, but that's the truth, right?
We brag about less.
We brag
That's
about
true. On 4 hours of sleep.
yes, yeah, that's exactly right. And we have slogans, you know, just do it. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Whatever they do to sell coffee, right? All that stuff, right? And there's a certain sort of bravado that goes along with pushing past our limits, and whole companies have made huge profits just based on pushing this one idea that you should never say can't, never say, right? There, never admit a limit, right? You're always going to go past it. You're always going to break through. And it's not exactly true that there's no merit in breaking through. You know, we want to get past some things. There are places in our lives where we're stuck, and we don't want to keep beating our head against the same wall or keep suffering around the same stuff or feeling defeated. But getting there actually happens, I've discovered, in a different way than what the Nike ads tell us. And thousands of years of Buddhist ideas and thought and psychology, you know, lots of people have been doing it a different way for a really long time. And the idea is that the way around is actually, it's through, but it's not through by ignoring the limit and barreling across the finish line. Through means consciously walk through. And what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? I think in the work I do with clients, and the somatic experiencing in particular, because it has such a mindfulness basis, mindfulness component to it, is that the way to exceed our current capacity is to first admit our current capacity. We can say, here's how things seem right now. And what happens in the work that I do with clients, and in my own personal work too, what I notice is that instead of barreling past my limit, if I hang out with, right within my own limit, what happens is magically capacity seems to expand.
Yeah, the limit kind of dissolves.
Yeah. And I can't explain why this is true, but I watch it happen with my clients every single time. I watch how, if I think I'm going to help someone get somewhere, and it's where they want to go, it's where they've said they want to go. If I think I'm going to help them get there, something usually goes awry. Even if it looks like they got there, later on I'll learn it wasn't good. It wasn't the right thing. They're struggling. But when I stay in my place and I hang out there and witness, and I just keep noticing with them, right? Here's what seems like is true right now. Can you notice that? Or how can we make it more comfortable to notice what's just here right now? It's as if by magic, people will say, oh, well, I can't really find that limit anymore. I can't, that thing that we were focusing on just a second ago, I can't, it's fuzzy now. I can't find it. right? It's like it vanishes. It reminds me of this story of the boy and the dragon. I think there's like a Zen koan or some Zen story where there's this boy and he's sitting there having a staring contest with a big scary dragon. And I don't know if they named the dragon initially. I think they said the dragon's name was Fear. And so the boy's sitting there and they're staring and the dragon won't blink and won't go away. And then he's so close he can feel the dragon's hot, nasty breath and the big beady eyes, and they're staring and staring and staring, and days go by and nobody's moving. Nothing happens. And then after a while, the boy finally opens the dragon's jaws and he climbs inside the dragon's big stinky mouth and he closes the jaws and the dragon vanishes. That's what it kind of seems like when in this process of getting to a place of greater capacity. It's first we admit the limitation that's there, the capacity that seems like it's there. And it can be really simple stuff too. Like, I'm too tired to do this extra favor for somebody. I'm too tired to go the extra mile, to do the overtime, to bake the cookies, to do without this sleep, to overwork or to under care for myself, whatever that is, right? Even if it's pressure from someone else to get over it or be something different than we are, to be something more or better or let go, right? Let go of that. Right? But that doesn't typically help. Telling people to calm down or to let go doesn't typically get them to that place. What's more likely to get them to that place is to help be there and notice. And so you're helping yourself. You can help others do this too, but to help yourself be there and notice, wow, I'm exhausted. Or my body's telling me I really need to sleep. Or it's telling me I really need to stop and eat right now. Oh, wow. And magically, what happens when we attend to the signals, so these signals are internal signals. These are signals that come from our body telling us hungry, sleepy, tired, right? Whatever the thing is. Just as an example of, and I'm right there with everybody else that I struggle with this, and I'm constantly practicing and learning how to stay within my capacity. How many people, and you can just, nobody has to admit anything, just think about for yourself, how easy is it for you when you notice that you're tired to just take a little break? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't care if you're mopping the floor or you're writing code. Whatever that is, how easy is it for you to just stop? Right? Sit down, rest a little. For most of us, it's not very easy. We're not used to that. We might tell kids to rest or provide transition time for them to go from one thing to the next, or say, oh, we should stop and have a meal. Stop and have a nap. But somehow there's some magical age where suddenly we're not allowed that anymore. No more breaks. Right? And what happens at that age? Do we suddenly become not needing those things? We're still human beings. And amazingly, when we allow that little bit of acknowledgement of our state, here's what my capacity is right now. I need to rest. our capacity actually expands. We can actually get more done if we are kinder to ourselves, more attentive to our limits, our body sometimes telling us, sometimes screaming at us about what it needs. If we attend to that, we can actually go longer. We can actually go further. We actually have more ready supply of energy for the moments when it's impossible to take the break, right? When we actually do have to. And we can tell the difference between times when we have to ignore a meal or the need to rest and when it's really not necessary. Right? If our habit is to take care of ourselves, then most of the time, that's just what we do. And then when we need that extra, right, that extra 10%, 20%, whatever it is, it's just there. So it's kind of like not abusing that, right? We know that's there, but instead of using it up as soon as it becomes available, we're like keeping ourselves in a position where I have extra capacity. I can help when help is really needed. And I don't mistake every single thing on earth as an emergency or absolutely necessary. And just as final food for thought, I posted this little article from Lifehacker on the Facebook feed. And I don't know if you guys all know, there's a Facebook page that goes along with, I have a blog that has lots of resources for meditation and mindfulness. And there's a Facebook page that goes along with it. And so the blog posts and then any other tidbits that I find get posted to the Facebook feed. And there was an article from a website called Lifehacker where somebody actually crunched the numbers and they found that 40 hours is actually our peak productivity. Well, I've heard less than 40 hours is actually peak, but they found that as you progress from 40 to 60 hours a week of work, your productivity plummets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're actually more productive if you stay within your 40-hour work time. It's really food for thought, right? So that's a perfect example of, right, if we stay within our capacity space, we're actually getting more done if we limit the amount of time. Anybody want to share anything or any questions, thoughts before we take a break?
There has to be more accidents too. The less efficient you get, the longer you work, the less efficient you get, and the more chance for accidents.
Mm-hmm. Well, the more, I'm pretty sure I've seen those numbers, fatigue and errors of all kinds, positive correlation.
Yeah, I used to work at American Electric Power and we studied what would happen with incidents, especially with line workers. In a hurry at the end of the day, Friday evening.
They've done it with all kinds of professions.
When they're in a rush.
Yeah, I've heard
Especially.
Don't go to doctor or dentist on a Friday.
Don't buy a car Friday second shift.
Right. We can find all kinds of real life examples to illustrate this. So go ahead and stretch your legs, take a little break, get a sip of something if you need to, and then we'll have our guided meditation. And like I was explaining earlier, all the parts of this meditation are about coming into this new relationship with experience. You're noticing what's here, whatever you experience, and however you feel yourself responding to it is okay. The space of your awareness is big enough to hold anything that you notice, including your responses to what you notice. So, like usual, let your attention slowly turn to beginning to notice the top of your head. And also, as usual, as a reminder, if any internal sensations seem too intolerable or too unpleasant, you can always open your eyes and switch to a focus that is outside of you, the candle, the ground, some other object in the room, and use that for the focus of your meditation. And you're just noticing whatever you find there at the top of your head. Could be tingling or tension, coolness or warmth. Something else pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. Or you might find yourself noticing, gee, there's nothing there. I just don't notice anything there. And that's fine. And as you feel ready, you're going to leave whatever sensations you found there at the top of your head and let your attention move down to notice your face. And sometimes there are sensations in the face that let us know tension is being held there. Sometimes around the eyes or the mouth. And you could experiment with letting your eyes sink deeply into the eye sockets and letting your tongue go completely limp in the bottom of your mouth, totally releasing the tongue as a way of seeing what it does to the tension. And then just noticing what happens after you imagine those things. And then leaving any remaining sensations that you noticed there in the face, eyes, jaw, mouth. Let your attention start to turn to noticing the sides of your head. And noticing whatever's there in as friendly as a way as you can. And you could perhaps imagine allowing your ears to drop slightly as a way of releasing any tension there in the sides of the head or the temples. And notice what that's like. Remembering that your only job is to notice throughout this entire meditation. And then finally, leaving whatever sensations remain there in the sides of your head to turn attention to noticing the back of your head and the back of your neck. Areas that we definitely carry lots of tension from time to time. And just noticing whatever you find there as non-judgmentally as you can. You could still even notice pleasant or unpleasant. Just noticing. And if you like, you could make a request for some relaxation in those areas. Back of the head, back of the neck. And then see if you can open to receive whatever happens next. It's just making a request, kind of like a little prayer, not so much a demand. And then take one last moment to notice whatever sensations remain there in the back of the head and neck before your attention starts to travel down your shoulders. So moving from your neck and spreading across your shoulders. Attention starting to notice whatever's there and pausing at the shoulder joints to notice what that part feels like. And then letting attention travel further down the arms, noticing upper arms. And pausing when you hit the elbow joints. Just noticing those for a moment. And letting attention continue to slide down forearms and wrists and hands all the way to your fingertips. Just noticing each part as your attention moves across it. And then starting to see if you get a general sense of your arms in this moment. Perhaps noticing left arm first, and then the right arm. And then noticing both arms simultaneously from the shoulder all the way to the fingertips. Being as friendly as you can with whatever you find there, even if it's restlessness or achiness or some other kind of discomfort. Or just noticing the general sensation that's there, flow or spaciousness or vibration. And then gently starting to shift your attention away from your arms and whatever was there, and letting your focus move to the core of your body, scanning from top to bottom, starting at the throat, noticing the sensation of the throat, and then of the chest, and then the diaphragm, right? That part that separates your chest from your belly. And then notice your belly and your lower abdomen down into your hips, feeling into your entire core. And then noticing the back side of the core of your body as well, from the upper back, moving down between the shoulder blades, noticing the middle area of your back. Attention moving down and noticing the lower back, and all the way to where you're seated in the chair, feeling your bottom in the chair. And just noticing whatever you find there. Any places of holding without trying to change them in any way. Notice holding, notice tension. See if you can allow your belly to soften. Can you allow a loosening in the armor of the chest, the area that surrounds the heart? Just imagine it. And then notice what that feels like. And just taking a couple more moments to register what you find there in the center of the core of your body. And then gently shifting your attention to begin noticing your legs from top to bottom. Starting from where you're seated in the chair and you feel the chair pressing against your bottom and the backs of your legs. And then noticing the tops of your thighs. Pausing to notice your knees. And letting attention drift over your shins and calves. Sliding down to the floor, noticing ankles and heels as they make contact with the floor or your shoes. And scanning the length of your foot, both feet, all the way to the tips of your toes. Non-judgmentally noticing whatever's there right now. And then perhaps feeling and noticing left leg from top to bottom. And then noticing your right leg from top to bottom. And then seeing if you can notice both legs at the same time. Being curious about that. And whatever you find there in your legs this evening is just fine. Tension or tiredness, coolness or warmth, tingling or flow, heaviness, spaciousness. Just noticing. And as you notice your legs for a moment or two longer, gently transition while you're noticing your legs to also becoming aware of the place where breathing seems to be happening. Where does it seem to be taking place? And letting your attention rise up gently to meet that place, to land there, where the seat of your breathing seems to be. And just seeing if you can let your attention rest there with wherever the sensation of breathing is. And whatever aspect of breathing draws your attention, you can just hang out with that, whether it's sound or vibration or the activation of a particular body part, movement of nose or throat or lungs, chest or belly, rising and falling. See if you can notice where that is for you, the most prominent sensation. And as you feel ready, you can start to let your attention expand to include other things that are happening in the space of the present moment. Anything else that attention notices is just fine to notice. You're just being here with whatever awareness seems to want to include, whether it's sound or some other sensation, feeling in the chair or the ground or your clothes, temperature or smell, or any other sensation. Relaxation. You might even notice thoughts or emotions, and they're fine to notice as well. And it's a way of helping yourself stay in the present moment with wherever attention would like to go. You could introduce this question, this experiment into your space. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What's the experience of that? Releasing any expectation of how it might have been last week or at another time, or how you wish it would be. You're just noticing how things are right now and allowing that space for whatever you're noticing to be exactly as it is. Noticing what it's like to be without effort or struggle. What it's like to not be trying to get somewhere. Instead, just resting right here. Allowing yourself to be supported by the present moment, like a big comfy chair. And you can bring the question back in as often as you need to. If your mind wanders or you get carried away in thought, it's no big deal. You just notice, oh yeah, I'm just noticing what happens if I allow everything to be as it is. Noticing what it's like to not be trying or struggling. I'm just noticing what it's like to let the controller take a rest. That part that's trying to get it right or get somewhere can just take a back seat right now and rest. And as we reach the end of this meditation, just let yourself savor another minute or so of the silence, spaciousness, maybe a feeling of your bigness, how it seems like you may extend beyond the boundaries of your body. Feeling of that spaciousness. Noticing the silence. Perhaps remembering that all you had to do to find this place of peace, of silence, was nothing. Noticing the felt sense of that space and peace. And then gently, as you feel ready, starting to send energy waves into your arms and legs, offering gentle movement to your fingers and toes, giving yourself time and space to transition. It's so nice to see you all this evening. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Namaste.
Cynthia, may I touch your chair?
Of course.
I felt
I've been looking at him.
in the meditation, I was like, my mind would wander.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like, I didn't fall asleep, but it was that where I wasn't here.
Uh-huh.
And then I'd come back to the voice and I would hear that the bugs, and I thought I was playing a synthesizer, like a keyboard. And I was thinking, so it was weird, like just back and forth. Was I falling asleep or was that just kind of like,
What?
It didn't feel like
That you're gonna
sleep,
make
it just
fun.
felt like.
And that's okay too.
So sometimes we can be in that in-between state. So we can, our consciousness can get into that really dreamy, fuzzy, it's almost like a hypnosis state.
Yeah.
I like the
And
lineup.
what we can do to help ourselves, because we kind of want to stay just a slightly this side of that sort of dream state, we can lean forward just slightly, and you can feel how it tightens up your attention a little bit to lean forward. And then we can feel how if we lean back, it gets kind of sleepy and dreamy. You can experiment with that and see what happens.
You put a little bit of analysis.
But yeah, it's almost like you lose little bits of time, but you're not sure what happened. It's like I
Well, yeah, I kind of looked around
like,
like, when I fall asleep.
right, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
yourself.
Thank you. I'm gonna try.
Thank you.
Take care. I will see you.
Have a good
Yes.
time.
Thank you, Betty.
Thanks, Cynthia.
You're welcome.